Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Making Sense of It. Do you ever wonder why you do the things you do? Well, this is a program that is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory, helping you to make sense of things so that you can see how something that doesn't seem possible become very possible and probable. Each week we have a member of the Glasser Institute to present a talk, and we are in for a informative and thought-provoking session today. Our speaker is Sue Tomaszewski, and her topic is entitled Understanding and Electrifying Self-Talk. So it will be quite informative as well as thought-provoking. So welcome everyone that is here, and those of you that watch later, thank you, thank you. And Sue, you ready? Take us away.
I am. All righty, there we go. Okay. Now, first of all, what I want to say to you is this whole topic was triggered because I had a friend who was staying over at my house. And when she was here and I was doing some stuff and she was on the computer and she was doing some stuff and she was chattering. And I said, Deb, are you something you need me to listen to? And she said, no, I'm just talking to myself. And I went, oh, okay. And then I realized that in my head, I was saying, I wish you wouldn't do that so loudly. You know, gee, do I say something to her now? So there was all of this, she's chitter chattering out loud to herself, and I'm chitter chattering in my head to myself going, please stop that. This is annoying. I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be something to this. So that's what triggered it to begin with. So I thought, well, let me see, how do I put this together? So here's some things as we're going to really look at what people call our inner voice sometimes. And, you know, have we ever apologized that we're talking to ourselves too loudly, or that sometimes when we're talking to ourselves in our heads and then we answer ourselves? And there is a combination. We're going to take a look at conscious thoughts and unconscious beliefs and biases, and what really is in how our brain works, and really look at it through the choice theory loop. So we are going to get a little technical on that. And then we're going to look at the power of negative and positive self-talk and the relationship to our internal use of reality therapy and the questioning process. We're going to look at the idea of arguing with yourself. So just out of, you know, I'm pretty sure that it's not just me, that others of us have argued with ourselves. So I'm thinking, well, what kinds of conversations do we have with ourselves? You know, and what we think of is, you know, have we ever been on our way somewhere and we realize we've forgotten something? And what do you say to yourself? Oh, what a forgetful jerk I am. Or, gee, I'm really glad I remembered it with enough time to think through another plan because I'm not going back. What do we say? And so I just thought about it in terms of how many of us actually coach ourselves. Come on, I know I can do this. Oh, I got this. Oh, this is my specialty. You know, I always feel better after I work out. Just a few more minutes and I'm definitely getting out of bed. Do we self-evaluate? Well, that wasn't my best, but it was a really good effort. Well, that was great. Unbelievable. What a jerk I am. Oh, it's okay if I don't want to go with everyone. I just don't want to go. Sometimes they also think we're planning. Well, this is a busy day. So first I'm going to, and then I'm going to, and then I can fit everything in today with this schedule. And this might not be the best time to ask this question. And I'm sure that there are probably other ways that people identify this, but these were the ways that I was thinking about when I started. So as we take a look at it, here's some advice about self-talk, which some people may have seen. Some memes. Your brain is a supercomputer and your self-talk is the program it'll run. Make sure your worst enemy is not living between your own two ears. Or you've been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see if what happens. Some more advice. This is from Positive Polly. And she says, when you put positive Polly in your brain, she helps you use positive self-talk and stops the negative self-talk. She's the inner coach in your brain. She helps you work through problems and find the best way to think about it. When she's in your brain, you think positive thoughts like, I can do this. It's going to be okay. But be careful how you are talking to yourself, because you are listening. And then it is okay to talk to yourself. It's even okay to answer yourself. But when you ask yourself to repeat what you just said, you do have a problem. So as we take a look at it, I found some article in Psychology Today, and they look at it and say that many people are conscious of the inner voice that provides that running monologue in their heads throughout the day, just goes on and on. This inner voice or self-talk combines conscious and unconscious beliefs and biases, and is providing a way for our brain to interpret and process daily experiences. It can be cheerful and supportive, or negative and self-defeating. Self-talk can be beneficial when it's positive, calming fears and bolstering confidence. Human nature, unfortunately, is prone to negative self-talk, including sweeping assertions like, I can't do anything right, or I am just a complete failure. So here's a couple of other memes. Well, of course I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice. Very reality therapy based here. What to tell myself when I'm feeling discouraged. This is tough, but so am I. I might not be able to control this situation, but I am in charge of how I respond. I haven't figured this out yet. This challenge is here to teach me something. All I need to do is take one step at a time, breathe, and do the next thing. And here's a new self-care. Talk to myself the way I talk to my dogs. Hi, sweet girl. You're so chubby and cute. Want a treat? Need a nap? We're very partial to those, aren't we? Yes. So here's a defining of self-talk that comes from the Kell Learning Enhancement, Eastern Washington University. They say that it's self-talk is the running dialogue you have with yourself. Self-talk can be purposeful, or it can be random. Does a thought just pop into your head? Like, I know this morning I was listening to something, I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about police programs that are now using social workers. And one of the questions was, well, what kind of training do these people get? And they were talking about the training, and even though they'll probably not run into these situations, we do spend a little bit of time training them on, and whatever it was. And I found myself, my teacher head got into there, and I just went, well, without intermittent practice, when they finally do come to it, they're not going to know how to do it. If you only do 10 minutes of it and let them practice there and never review it. And it was just a random thought. It just popped into my head as I was listening to that. It can be internal or external, the difference between Deb and me. And positive self-talk most often results in good performance. Negative self-talk always results in poor performance. Now, here's some other information about positive self-talk. It can help you to, according to these folks, regulate your emotions, increase your self-esteem. Interesting, I listened to another webinar the other night, and they were talking about, instead of self-esteem, think about self-efficacy. So what we're good at, fulfilling that power need. Increasing your self-confidence, controlling your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So some people, as we talk about total behavior, that'll sound familiar, and to help us attain our goals. So I found this wonderful website because I was curious about the difference between affirmations and self-talk. And now these people, their site is actually called Thinking Affirmations, is aiming, and this is just their website and their mission statement. And I thought they were interesting. And they do delineate between self-talk that's going on in our heads all the time, as opposed to affirmations, which are also, they're both in our heads, you know, although, and we may write things down in a journal and we may say it out loud, but an affirmation is very conscious, very deliberate, usually being said in the present tense, and usually specifically to attain a goal. So it's a lot more specific in terms of, instead of those thoughts that just keep roaming through. So they say, though, that it is that self-talk is that inner voice, that running dialogue throughout the day. Sometimes we say it out loud, that everyone is having this inner monologue. It is something that's just done naturally. And any thought directed to yourself is an example of self-talk. Thinking you can't do something, worrying you're not good enough, congratulating yourself on an achievement, telling yourself to focus, cringing at an embarrassing memory. These are all examples of different kinds of self-talk. And to know that everyone's inner voice is different, and it is influenced by our subconscious, but it could also be unconscious beliefs and the way you view yourself. And the same is true in reverse. The way we talk to ourselves is a big influence on how we see ourselves in the world around us. So as we look at, according to these folks, again, thinking for affirmation, self-talk can be positive, negative, or neutral. So they talk about positive self-talk as any self-directed thought that's encouraging or self-affirming. It's the good kind of self-talk that's most often associated with healthy mental well-being. And I think when we talk about changing our self-talk, we're thinking, oh, if we're doing negative self-talk, we better change it to positive self-talk. And so this is the positive piece. So, but they actually split it up into categories, which I thought was interesting. There's the encouragement, I'm doing well, I can do this. Self-assurance, which promotes confidence, I'm going to do really well. Motivation, if I try hard now, I'll be able to reap the reward later. And then self-reinforcement, which is recalling all those positive experiences to reinforce your self-esteem. Self-congratulatory, catching yourself doing something well and celebrating it. I'm proud of myself. I gave it myself my best shot. And also gratitude, being thankful and appreciative of what you have. Do take some note over the tense of the self-talk, because I know there are people who will say that it should be in the present tense, that it's actually fooling our brain when we do that. So the idea that I'm doing well, instead of saying I can do this, to say I am doing this, and I am doing this successfully. Instead of saying I'm going to do really well, I am doing really well. So there are people who talk about it just to make sure that you use present tense. Also, please take note that there isn't the coercion in there, that people are not using the, well, I have to, I should. And we're going to look at the instances of wanting something and that it's part of our quality world picture as opposed to trying to coerce ourselves. So these folks have a whole list of examples. I am capable of anything. I can do this. I did a great job today. I deserve the promotion. I've been working hard all year. We may have lost, but we gave it our best shot, and that's what matters most. This is a great opportunity to learn from and grow. I'm going to ace this interview. My life is great. I have a wonderful family and lots to be thankful for. Now, of course, we had positive self-talk. So we're going to look again at think affirmation, and we're going to look at negative self-talk. And self-talk can be positive, negative, or neutral. Negative self-talk is likely to be more discouraging, self-deprecating, and critical. Types of negative self-talk: catastrophizing. And some of us know this pretty well. When we take a look at it, when you expect the worst possible outcome and convince yourself that it's likely, even when all logic and evidence says otherwise. We do this for self-preservation, though, to take preventive measures ahead of time. So it is when you catastrophize, like, oh my God, this is just the worst thing ever. This is just not going to work. Oh my God. A guy was here yesterday. He was inspecting my furnace, and my furnace has an issue. And he says, well, I have to shut your furnace off because something bad may happen. And he gave me the whole, I mean, he was catastrophizing, but he was catastrophizing because he wants me to buy a new furnace, you know, but in the meanwhile, he said, well, I'm going to shut this valve off. And I went, it's 28 degrees. You know, in my head, I'm thinking, are you trying to freeze me out? And how are we going to do this? You know, and he said, well, you can turn it back on because once I go upstairs, I don't know. But in the meanwhile, I'm catastrophizing, going, oh my God, when you turn it back on, am I going to have a fire? Oh my God, am I going to? Oh my God, it's like, okay, yep, I'll buy the new one. I'll buy the new one. I'll buy the new one. Yep, sign here. There's also self-criticism is negative. Fixate on the things you do wrong rather than what you do right. Magnifying, you just magnify it in your head and you only focus on the negative aspects of a given situation, ignoring all the positives. And then there's the negative rehashing. You go over unpleasant events over and over and over again in your head. You might be doing this to solve the problem, but each time you remind yourself of the negative event, you feel worse. And polarizing, you see it as very black and white. And that things are, if they're not perfect, they must be terrible. If you miss your goal, you're a complete failure. If you do something wrong, you're a terrible person. So I think about the negative rehashing, and it's really interesting. I'll think about the night my husband died, and I'll have all of this stuff in my head, and I rehash it over and over again. Well, if I had only, well, what if I, geez, if I had only called this one instead of that one, you know what, maybe we should have, and I just go through it, and it's like, oh my God, and I wish I had known more, over and over, and it does not help. All right, so some examples. Stuart's joining me as we're talking here. Why did I have to say that? What's wrong with me? I can't do this. I'm useless. I don't deserve to be relaxing right now. What if I get nervous later? I'm just going to call the whole thing off. Nobody likes me. I was late today. I'm just going to lose my job. What's the point of trying? This will never work. And then what these folks came up with that I thought was really interesting is they talk about that there's self-talk that's neutral. They've labeled it as neutral. And this is this type of self-talk, which it doesn't offer optimism. It isn't like positive. It's just somewhere in the middle. It can help you make the best of a bad situation without being unrealistic or overly positive. And sometimes only neutral language is needed in order to communicate most effectively. So types of neutral self-talk, it's instructional. It's when I was talking about planning, it's okay. So what are the things that we tell ourselves and we kind of repeat it out loud? It's neutralizing something itself. So instead of the negative thoughts, I can't do this, or I did a great job, say, I haven't mastered this yet. It's realistic and it's providing room for improvement without being discouraging. And then there's the self-management one. It helps us to regulate our own emotions and feelings. And instead of fixating on how we feel, it can help us direct our thoughts on what needs to be done. We might say to ourselves, I'll have to try that again. So some examples: bend your knees, breathe in, breathe out. This is what I can handle at the moment. I'm doing okay today. I made the best decision I could with the information I had at that time. I made a mistake. Everybody does from time to time. I will learn from this. And these feelings will pass. Now, I thought, well, that's coming from other sources, but what about Dr. Glasser? And I thought from a choice theory perspective, and now I believe self-talk in its simplest is a behavior, and that it's part of our total behavior system, part of our total behavior and our behavioral system. And remembering that Dr. Glasser described our behavior, our total behavior, in 4 components. Actions, what we're doing, thinking, the stream of thoughts constantly running through our minds, which sounds like self-talk, I think. And feelings, our emotions, anger, fear, joy, etc. And our physiology, all those non-conscious physical responses, our body talk. So not just our intellectual talk, but our body talk. And our heart rate, our breathing, our sweating, our muscle tension. So there's all the total behavior. And then we know we talked about it as the total behavior car. And this is Mitchell Messina's that I borrowed. And he talked about the acting wheel, and to remember that acting is sleeping, walking, yelling, crying, talking, and that we know we have more control over our acting. We also have more control over our thinking. So I'm confused. I'm such a loser. I'm calm. I can do this. Very self-talk oriented. But then there's feelings. So I can be delighted, worried, frustrated, calm. So now the idea might be to say, well, I'm frustrated, but I'm calm. let me give this more thought. What will I do? And then there's the physiology piece. Continuing from a choice theory perspective, so some people are familiar, I'm just pulling parts of the chart out to say, here's the behavioral system. The behavioral system is that system which is organized. So it's like our habits. What are the things that we just have built into our system? And then when we get a signal that it's not working right, sometimes we pick a different organized behavior, or sometimes we reorganize. We use our creative system and we create different behaviors. So for instance, when I make a mistake, my habit, my organized behavior is to say, and I very often do this out loud, stupid girl. So it was really interesting. I went yesterday for a pedicure. So when I'm at the pedicure, and it was really funny because I had the 2 weeks before, I had written a check and I wrote it for the wrong amount. And so now yesterday, I'm trying to reconcile, well, now what do I owe her because I did it wrong the last time. And as we were doing all of that, I took my checkbook out and right out loud, I said, stupid girl. And we had just been talking about that I was going to do this self-talk today. She went, well, there you go, Sue, nice self-talk. And I did, I just said it right out loud. So instead, I'd like to use my creative system to organize and reorganize my behavior when I make a mistake by recognizing my mistake and saying, oop, that's just not right. And say, I'm smart enough to figure out what to do. So interesting, how do we use our creative systems? So now just a little bit more on the whole creative system. Dr. Glasser talks about that we have a creative system and that it can work in our total behaviors. And that so there's actions. And we see it in athletes, surgeons, others. Creative thinking, and that's where writers and artists and musicians and scientists, they work. It's ability of the great performers, and they express their feelings to their audiences. And also in physiology, very much, and we've seen people who have recovered from severe illnesses. So it offers new actions and thoughts, which we can reject if we believe that what is offered will make things worse. We usually have enough voluntary control over our actions and thoughts to do this, especially if we understand this is a choice. So just a little bit more on the creative system. So also from a choice theory perspective. So again, here's the whole chart, and there was just the behavioral system and the total behavior that we were looking at before. And I believe that our self-talk is directly attached to our values, what's important to us, and our unconscious thoughts and biases, which very much live in our valuing filter, and our quality world. And then as well as when we self-evaluate, like, is this helping me be who I want to be? And is who I want to be okay? So for instance, in my quality world picture and in my values and my self-evaluation, the holidays are important to me, so I want to spend time decorating my house. Notice the want, not that I have to get the decorations out. I'm a trusted, committed, and smart person, and I look forward to the meetings this week to be the person I take pride in being. I'm glad I was able to make plans, but I wish I wasn't worried about getting together with people. I am working out, and diet is very important. I'm working at both, but just not as committed as I wish I was. So I'm trying hard not to shame myself. And just a little more on quality world. It's what I want, what I really want. It's the people we want to be most with. It's the things we want to own or experience. It's the ideas or systems of belief that govern most of our behavior. And then, of course, our needs. So continuing with that, looking at our needs, the 5 of them. And I believe that self-talk is connected in helping us meet our basic needs. You know, it was a hard decision, but I'm glad I agreed to have them over. It was really nice spending time with friends, love and belonging. I'm so glad I ordered the wreath, and they sent me an email with a picture, and it was placed in time. And I want to send an email thanking them. So that's some power, but it's also a love and belonging. It's also a freedom. I really wish I could figure out a way to say no without hurting their feelings. Freedom, love and belonging. I'm looking forward to the next episode of the Netflix series. That's just fun. I should call the management company and make sure they take care of the driveway. A little bit of survival going on there. I'm also thinking, do we use the habits in our self-talk? So which habits do we use? In what way do we negotiate? In what way do we criticize ourselves? In what way do we actually negotiate differences with ourselves? Do we encourage ourselves? Then continuing with our idea of choice theory, reality therapy, the idea of the questioning process, adapting Dr. Glasser's reality therapy. Well, what am I hoping for? What do I want? What do I want for happiness? What have I been doing? What are my actions, my thoughts, my feelings? How effective have I been at self-evaluation? And what other plans might I have that I'm willing to consider? And so in using the questioning process, well, what do I want? What do I really want? I want to be, this is just me talking. I want to be happy, healthy, and comfortable. So what have I been doing? I very consciously consider my basic needs and have made sure to stay in contact with friends and family, and I've engaged in activities that I find joyful. I maintain doctor's visits and work out several days per week. I've consistently met with my financial manager to assure security. How well have these actions been working? My selections of activities have been cautious and have been joyous, although sometimes continuing to worry if I might not be cautious enough. I definitely haven't been working out heartily enough, and I've been negligent diet-wise. But meeting with my financial manager has proved very successful. Further planning. I have an appointment with PT this week, which I hope will create more rigor to my workout. I'm considering researching the small personal training gym up the street to use in conjunction with my online trainer. And the better diet will be on my list, just not now. It's the holidays after all. So then the question is, well, what happens when we argue with ourselves? So Michelle Gillian in Psychology Today said, she's got an article, if you want to be happier, argue with yourself. In choice theory, Dr. Glasser, and it was brought up earlier, that he posed the idea of conflicting quality world pictures. You know, so yeah, I want to join my friends at the party, but I want to stay healthy and not be tempted by all the goodies. I want to have an easier time walking and moving, but I'm really very worried about having the recommended knee replacement surgery. When our needs and our pictures are in conflict, we are often using our self-talk to argue with ourselves. So now what? Some questions to ask. What action will best help me get my needs met more effectively? Well, going to the party is very much about love and belonging, while staying healthy is much more survival, as is eating healthier. I've devoted a lot of attention to survival while neglecting love and belonging, so it could be time for that. But perhaps, what if I go later and eat at home, so I focus on love and belonging, just people who I want to be around, who I feel safe around, so I can keep my mask on. Which action is really more important? Well, from a long-term perspective, staying healthy. From a short-term perspective, the party wins. Is there another way for me to meet my love and belonging need without compromising my health and safety? Aha! What if I just invite a few friends to my house for a little get-together with interesting but healthy foods? And so might we use what we know about choice theory to self-evaluate? On a scale of 10, 1 to 10, what's the importance of the party? What's the importance of the health issues? Could I use the caring habits? Could I negotiate the differences? And just a final thought on all of this. Can we be mindful of our self-talk? It's a conversation that we're having with the universe. So, don't know what you've been saying to yourself, but I've been talking out loud the whole time. So there we go.
Well, all right. That was very thorough. And it has been settled once and for all. Wonderful, wonderful. You really went in a lot of different directions and perspective. And I love the way you use your personal thoughts and arguments and conclusions to explain. Yeah, to explain what you were going through. So with those neutral thoughts kind of comes to, it is what it is. So what are we going to do about it or not? And if we can or we can't.
I think you're right.
And also, I love that vivid description of seeing the physiology part of the behavior as being body talk.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. I had never noticed that before. You know, but that's the definition. It's like, okay, so it's body talk. It is our body talking to ourselves.
Right. I had not seen it that clearly either. But at the same time, I have listened to a lot of gurus that talk about the fact, if your leg hurts, ask it what's wrong with it, what it needs. And so if you really tune to it, our body or our mind or whatever it is will give us another direction to take.
Does it hurt more or less if I do this or that? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to know, what is your personal takeaway from all of this that you have been studying about?
Just how much it fits in with choice theory and reality therapy. That all the other people, that it's almost too trite to talk about. I'm sorry, Stuart is having like a little. I'm saying in my head, be quiet, Stuart. I don't know what he's upset about, but he's upset about something. He's talking to me because I'm talking too much. Anyway, I think it's very choice theory oriented, and I hadn't thought about self-talk that way before. I think it's also, I'm taking away that it's almost too trite to recognize self-talk as just, be more positive, be more positive, be more positive, be more positive. And it's interesting that Sharon and I with Quality Schools, there's a lot of writing now on toxic positivity, that the idea that we're disabling people from saying things that are wrong, that in schools that, the principal's trying to have everything be so positive that the stuff that's wrong and is going on and is bad, if you bring it up, you're being negative.
Yeah. Well, I think my main takeaway so far, I may go back and watch this again, but my main takeaway right now is the fact that where you said that even though it may seem like all life is out of the body and, that things is the catastrophe, that there is enough voluntary control within that we can often overcome that.
You guys have to talk for a moment. I have two cats who are fighting with each other. I want to make sure they don't hurt each other. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
We'll trust that they are doing okay, Lord, being a person that has kitties. So anyway, thank each of you for being here, and we'd like to hear your comments. So maybe send some chatter our way. My email address is Mona Duncan, DUNKIN @gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you and the thoughts that you would like to share. In the meantime, thank you for being here, and many blessings and happy, holy holidays and good mental health.